The day I got accepted into Harvard, my dad was in a car accident. To raise the $1 million surgery fee, I gave my Harvard opportunity to my dad's boss's daughter. I willingly went to vocational college under her name. In my third year, I was preparing for the college-to-university transfer while working part-time at a restaurant. I happened to run into the boss's family celebrating their daughter successfully securing a spot for an overseas exchange program, by chance. I overheard the truth about the car accident from back then. Turns out, it was all a malicious scheme. They not only stole my life but also took my parents' lives. After the screeching sound of brakes, I woke up, back in my senior year of high school. This time, I won't just protect my own achievements and safeguard my parents' lives, I'll make sure they pay in blood, pain, as if every bone in my body had been crushed, jolted me upright. Before me were Dad and Mom's concerned faces. What's wrong? Cecilia, did you have a nightmare? I froze. It had been so long since anyone called me by my real name, and they're clearly long gone too. Suspiciously surveying my surroundings, the familiar bedroom setup was exactly as it had been 2 years ago. Even the calendar on the wall was from 2 years back. I had been reborn. I'd returned to my senior year of high school. A mix of anger, fear, and overwhelming bitterness surged through me. Clutching my bewildered parents, I sobbed uncontrollably. My heart breaking into pieces. Previous life, the day I received Harvard's acceptance letter, Mom joyfully prepared a feast to celebrate. What we awaited, however, was the devastating news of Dad's car accident. Drunk driving led to a rear-end collision with a truck. He was the driver, suffering severe injuries. Outside the operating room, faced with a staggering medical bill exceeding $1 million, Mom and I knelt pleading, hoping Dad's boss would lend us money to save his life. Aunt Lisa, the boss's wife, spoke in an icy tone. Your dad was drunk driving. Bruce, sitting in the back seat, barely escaped with his life and is still lying in a hospital bed. We were overwhelmed with shame. It never occurred to us to wonder why our father, who had always been strictly sober while driving, would suddenly drive drunk. Aunt Lisa's gaze fell on my pocket, where the newly received admission letter was tucked away. Originally meant to show Dad, now, it had become my last lifeline. With trembling hands, I pulled out the Harvard admission letter, touched it reluctantly, and handed it over. Bella has always dreamed of attending Harvard. Now, I'm giving her this opportunity. Do you think it's possible? Aunt Lisa reluctantly agreed. Thus, Bella became me, Cecilia, stepping into the halls of Harvard, and I, willingly, attended community college under Bella's name. Unfortunately, my father fell into a coma for several months after surgery and passed away due to severe injuries. I still lost my father. Mom always felt guilty, believing she had ruined my life. She worked day and night to repay debts and eventually died from exhaustion. Even Mom left me. 3 years after the college entrance exams, I followed my mother's dying wish and applied for the college-to-undergraduate program, yet still couldn't see a future. Life was full of devastation. But then I unexpectedly encountered Boss Bruce's family again. They were joyfully celebrating Bella's successful qualification for the study abroad exchange program, and I am a waitress at the restaurant. If 2 years ago, as the daughter of a driver, my status was worlds apart from Bella, the heiress of a publicly listed company's CEO, but because of my outstanding academic performance, I never felt inferior to anyone. Now, standing outside holding a tray, clutching the hem of my uniform, all my pride has turned into a joke. And I feel like I've rotted away in the dust. Unexpectedly, fate was cruel enough to deliver another heavy blow even in the mud. I only meant to break his leg, but I was afraid the medical expenses would be too low. That kid wouldn't trade Harvard for money. Who would have thought he'd end up dead? Boss Bruce's laughter seeped through the slight crack in the door I had just opened. Even better that he's dead. He already knew about you adding additives to the milk. Who's to say he wouldn't report it someday? Aunt Lisa chuckled along. I deliberately applied to the worst junior college. Cecilia definitely won't be able to turn things around, so she can't affect me anymore. Oh, and Mom, hurry up and change my name. I don't want to keep using her stupid name. Bella tapped her plate impatiently. The laughter of the three of them sent chills down my spine, leaving me breathless. It turns out Dad was killed by Boss Bruce, because he discovered the illegal activities of Boss Bruce's company. What I thought was my voluntary decision to give up the Harvard opportunity was actually all part of a scheme and manipulation behind the scenes. The Bella family not only stole my life but also took my parents' lives. My blood ran cold instantly, and my hands holding the tray trembled from the chill. So vicious. So terrifying. I struggled to steady my breathing and slowly backed away from the hallway. Bella, what are you doing here? came the sharp reprimand from the supervisor behind me. Soon, the compartment door opened from inside, Boss Bruce and Aunt Lisa stepped out, saw me, and after a brief moment of surprise, flashed familiar, kind smiles. "So it's Bella, have you been standing at the door for long?" The smile didn't reach their eyes, revealing a hint of malice. My mind went blank. I don't know how I responded, nor what excuse I gave the supervisor to ask for leave. There was only one thought in my heart: run, go to your family and friends, tell them the whole story, go to the police, and ask them to investigate, until a blinding white light flashed, accompanied by a sharp screech of brakes. A car came straight at me, and I lost consciousness. Fortunately, cruel fate finally showed me mercy. I was reborn. This time, I won't just protect my grades and save my parents' lives, I'll make sure they pay in blood. "Why are you crying? Is the exam pressure too much?" Mom hugged me, patting my back gently. I shook my head. When it comes to studying, I've always been effortlessly capable. I've firmly held the top spot in my grade, consistently leaving the second-place student behind by over 10 points. I'm crying so bitterly now because the parents I could only see in photos are actually standing beside me alive again. With voices and warmth, this feeling of regaining what was lost is something they cannot understand. I can't allow myself to indulge in the warmth of their embrace for too long. Looking at the calendar, there are less than 3 months left until the college entrance exams. I must seize the time to focus on more important matters. Sitting up straight, speaking with a thick nasal tone while acting coquettishly, "Mom, I'm hungry. I want some milk. My little ancestor." "I'll get it for you." Mom stood up, smiling helplessly, but my gaze was fixed intently on Dad's reaction. "Boss Bruce is the CEO of Brown Group Dairy. Brown Group Dairy went public 2 years ago. In this era, as the only listed company in a small 38th-tier city, it can be considered a star enterprise. For many years, my dad has been Boss Bruce's personal driver. According to Boss Bruce's account in the previous life, they illegally added harmful additives to the milk, which my dad discovered. Trusting Boss Bruce completely, Dad actually thought he was unaware and kindly reminded him, which ultimately led to his tragic death. So, I need to confirm whether Dad already knows about the additives at this point in time. Dad hesitated slightly, then smiled when he saw how nervous I was. "Don't put too much pressure on yourself, just do your best in the college entrance exam, no matter what happens. Your mom and I are here for you." My nose tingled with emotion. Our family never had grand ambitions, contentedly living our simple lives, believing in the inherent goodness of people, unaware that behind some human masks lurked bloodthirsty monsters. When Mom returned, she handed me the same Brown Group pure milk we'd always drunk at home. Dad hesitantly raised his hand, but ultimately didn't stop her. "It seems Dad doesn't know about the additives yet, at least, not completely." I felt somewhat relieved, holding the milk carton. I nodded at Dad and then shook it slightly. "This time, I will definitely give it my all." The next day, I went to school. Although more than 2 years have passed, I still found my way to the classroom effortlessly. No, one high school, Class 1, senior year. This is the place I've longed to return to countless times in my midnight dreams. The moment I stepped into the classroom, I couldn't hold back my tears. In my previous life, those 2 suffocating years at the worst vocational college in the city were like endless darkness. No one attended classes, no one read books, fights and makeout sessions were everywhere, and at night in the Grove, you might even stumble upon people having sex. It had been so long since I'd seen young faces glowing with hope under the morning sun, either reciting quietly or explaining problems to each other. No, I should say, I've been away from this group's world for far too long. Just sat down and pulled out the textbook, but then my shoulder was suddenly tapped. "Why are you so late? Don't you know I'm on duty today? Go wipe the blackboard." Bella, sporting a trendy head of blonde hair at the time, arrogantly ordered me around. I ignored her. I took out a pen, ready to warm up by tackling a practice test first. It had been over 2 years, and my skills were a bit rusty. Bella was infuriated by my attitude. Snap, she snatched my pen away and threw it on the ground. "Did I tell you to clean the blackboard, or are you deaf?" Only then did I look up at her. "It's your turn for duty today. Why should I clean the blackboard?" She laughed angrily, blowing a strand of her yellow hair upward in frustration. "What gives you the right? Just because your dad is my dad's driver, you, Cecilia, should be my servant. Bella has always treated me like her servant, even at school." She never hesitates to say it out loud. In my previous life, although I felt ashamed and embarrassed, I never resisted. After all, I was also afraid that if Bella complained to her dad because of me, it might affect my father's job, but now, there's nothing to fear anymore. I picked up the pen, stood up, towering half a head taller than Bella, looking down at her. My dad is your dad's employee, a legitimate employment relationship. He gets paid for the work he does. How did it turn into my whole family being sold to you, Bella? Do you think this is the old society where you can bully others as you please? Don't forget, we're all equal. Bella opened her mouth but couldn't speak, her face flushing red with anger, a good-for-nothing fool who only knows how to suppress others with status and money. Once you tear away her ferocious facade, all that's left is a mere clown jumping around. The surrounding classmates began to whisper among themselves. They're all children from ordinary families. And everyone has been dissatisfied with Bella for a long time. In my previous life, I tolerated and endured her, never daring to escalate conflicts, and everyone's grievances were eventually suppressed. But in this life, I'll make her the target of public criticism. At No. 1 high school, classes are divided based on academic rankings. Class 1, grade 12 gathered the top-performing students from the entire grade. Bella wasn't originally qualified to be here. Based on her high school entrance exam scores, she shouldn't have even made it into No. 1 high school, but back when choosing schools after the entrance exam, I scored first in the city and hesitated between No. 1 high school and affiliated high school of University A. I had already applied to the affiliated high school, which had better faculty and made me better promises, but at the last moment, Aunt Lisa persuaded me otherwise. She listed some so-called advantages of first high school and then said that Bella was also there, so we could commute together, keeping each other company and putting my parents at ease. At the time, my whole family was filled with gratitude. Little did we know that Aunt Lisa had already made arrangements with the school leadership. If she could convince me to switch to first high school, Bella would also be admitted, even directly placed in Class 1, of course. Aunt Lisa also paid a hefty school selection fee, but compared to those selection fees, what mattered most to the school leadership in our small town, where even advancing to higher education was difficult, was attracting the city's top scorer and securing an early Harvard admission spot. So, beyond the originally planned 50-student quota for Class 1, Bella was squeezed in as an extra, yet she wore this not as a shame, but as a badge of honor. Going around telling everyone that good grades don't matter, as long as your family has money, you can still get into the top class at No. 1 high school. She even mocked those of us who grind through practice problems every day, saying we've become stupid from studying too hard. A group of classmates who got in through genuine academic ability were extremely annoyed by her arrogant attitude, especially right now. Bella was speechless to refute, so she grabbed my test paper, tore it to shreds, and threw it in my face. Cecilia, do I need to give you face? Look at your background. What kind of low-class trash from a poor family dares to talk about equality with me? Many students, also from ordinary families and eager to change their fate through study, were enraged. They slowly gathered around. What do you mean, Bella? Do you think having a wealthy family makes you superior? Exactly. It's the 21st century and you're still talking about family background and origins. Have you ever heard of common prosperity and a harmonious society? Bella was completely taken aback by the accusation and froze. No, I was only criticizing Cecilia, I wasn't talking about you guys. She was clearly flustered, seeing me still calm and composed, surrounded by the crowd. She was enraged and raised her hand to hit me. I instinctively tried to dodge, but a large hand pushed me back. By the time I reacted, a tall figure was already standing in front of me. He grabbed Bella's wrist. His tone lazy but his voice icy cold. I made the duty roster. If you have any complaints, take it up with me. Class monitor Leo. He stood in front of me, blocking Bella's slap. I suddenly recalled the last messages he sent me in my previous life, and my eyes welled up. In my previous life, Bella always bossed me around in class, treating me like a servant. Throughout my 3 years of high school, I was used to keeping my head down and rarely spoke to my classmates. A young, sensitive heart. Even with excellent grades, still worried if others would look down on them. I wasn't familiar with them even when I was in school, let alone after graduation. I had no contact with my high school classmates anymore, so, when I received a message from Leo after starting college, I was very surprised. Cecilia, I went to Harvard to find you. Why did they point me to Bella? Where are you now? Did she impersonate you to get into Harvard? Cecilia, are you having some trouble? I can help you. Let me help you, okay? I was very touched. Then I blocked Leo. I was indeed in trouble, a lot of trouble, but I couldn't say anything. Aunt Lisa's tone was reluctant at the time, and she finally magnanimously agreed. It's not because of Harvard, it's mainly because your dad has worked for our family for so many years that we can overlook his drunk driving, consider Bruce unlucky, and we are willing to help you cover 1 million in expenses, but this 1 million is a loan. You don't need to pay it back for now, but if," she didn't continue, "I understand that if I don't obey, and cause trouble for them, this 1 million debt will fall on our heads." That day, she held a voice recorder and captured my words verbatim. It was me who deliberately impersonated Bella to attend school, and it was also me who actively requested forging the academic registration and household materials to swap our identities. The one who broke the law was me. Every time Mom thought about that recording afterward, she would slap herself in regret. "Cecilia, it's our fault as parents, we've ruined all your paths." I hugged her, and we could do nothing but weep bitterly. What else could we do? At that time, my father was lying in the operating room waiting for emergency treatment. That money was life-saving, even a minute's delay was unacceptable, we couldn't bargain. We had no choice but to comply, and afterward, we even knelt in gratitude to thank Boss Bruce and his entire family. All the grievances had to be swallowed deeply. I secretly kept Leo's information. Late at night, whenever I couldn't sleep because of my roommate's phone calls, I would take it out and look at it, especially after my mom passed away. I often looked at these messages, reminding myself over and over again, your name is Cecilia, not Bella, and there are still people in this world who care about you, in this lifetime, now. I stand behind Leo. The corner of the school uniform, carrying a faint scent of soap, was lifted by the breeze, and I suddenly felt a little dazed. In my previous life, perhaps this young man also wanted to stand in front of me like this, to help me, to protect me. Bella's arrogant demeanor immediately died down when she faced Leo. Everyone in the class knew she liked Leo. Bella lowered her head and said reluctantly, "I'm not dissatisfied with the duty roster you assigned." She turned her head and glared at me fiercely before going to clean the blackboard. Leo turned around, looked at me, and flashed a somewhat roguish smile. He whistled a melodious tune and walked away. For 2.5 years in high school, we barely spoke to each other. This time was no different. Instead, a little girl named Sarah came over and tugged at my sleeve. Her voice was timid. "Cecilia, don't be upset. My dad is also a driver. The kind who drives big trucks. What's wrong with being poor? My dad earns his money honestly and cleanly, and I've never felt inferior to anyone." Someone who had never crossed paths with me in my previous life was now earnestly using herself as an example to comfort me. I nodded at her. Before Sarah turned away, I hesitated and spoke up, pointing at the test paper in her hand. "The answer to that question is too complicated. If you'd like, I can teach you a simpler method." This was also the first time I tentatively took the initiative to extend kindness. The girl with a small, bun-like face widened her almond-shaped eyes in surprise. "Why yes, of course. Having the top student in our grade explain problems to me would be amazing." At noon, Sarah asked if I wanted to go to the cafeteria together. I used to rush to the cafeteria right after class to grab food for Bella, pack it up, and bring it back to her while I ate and did homework at my seat. This was the first time someone had invited me to eat together. I agreed without hesitation. When we arrived, I realized it wasn't just the two of us. Several people had taken a table and waved us over to join them. The senior year studies were intense, and everyone was discussing the recent mock exams while eating. Someone nudged the classmate who was talking loudly with their elbow. "The top student in our grade is right here. Why are you showing off?" That person turned to look at me and immediately fell silent, their face turning bright red. I quickly waved my hand. No, I hadn't thought of the solution he just mentioned either. "Could you please continue?" That classmate finally perked up, raising an eyebrow. "See, my approach is particularly innovative." Back and forth we went, thoroughly dissecting that major problem and its corresponding question type. Finally, the classmate looked at me and sighed thoughtfully. "Cecilia, I never realized you were so approachable. Since you never talked to us before, I thought you looked down on us because of your good grades." To my astonishment, everyone around me nodded in agreement. Approachable. I silently repeated these 4 words to myself, wanting to laugh. That's giving me too much credit, not to mention that Bella doesn't even look at me properly now, and in the future, in the future of my previous life, if they knew that I had delivered food, washed dishes, and worked as a waiter, would anyone still use the phrase, down to earth, to describe me? Just as I was thinking, a bottle of cola suddenly appeared in front of me. Following the hand with distinct knuckles holding the cola, my gaze met Leo's smiling face. He came from the table behind, carrying a tray, and with a long stride, he squeezed himself into the seat opposite me. Immediately, the two boys beside us were squeezed to the point of grimacing, starting to eat in the cafeteria now. Next time, come to our table, Leo said with a smile, his peach blossom eyes curved and particularly bright. Sarah dramatically gestured, blocking me. No way, Cecilia is sitting with us, she's going to explain problems to us, Leo said. Oh, all right then, I'll come to your table from now on, I want to listen too. The two boys next to them had expressions of, oh, no. Life was not worth living. Back to the classroom. I was a bit later than Sarah and the others. Sure enough, Bella was already waiting at the door. My food, she squeezed out 3 words through gritted teeth. I had thought about pretending to forget, but now I couldn't even muster the energy to humor her. I didn't buy it. I walked past her. Bella grabbed my sleeve and yanked me back forcefully. Cecilia, aren't you afraid I'll have my dad fire yours? Perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. I wish they'd fire him, the sooner the better, if it weren't for the fact that my parents still have a good person filter for Bruce's family, and I couldn't find a suitable reason, would have long ago advised my dad to quit. It's best not to discover anything, and live a peaceful life. I pried her fingers open one by one. Suit yourself. Bella was practically fuming. Say that to me again. In the classroom, a student sleeping at their desk was woken up. Bella, can you shut up? Stop fucking bullying Cecilia. A furious roar, followed by silence. Good, this is exactly the effect I wanted. Bella dared to covet my achievements. On one hand, her family had connections to fake credentials, and on the other, she was certain I wouldn't report it. This way, the whole incident of impersonating to get into Harvard would stay hidden between our two families. Not even the people in our small town would know. She didn't even have to worry about classmates discovering the truth and investigating further. In my previous life, I was truly isolated and helpless. It was Leo's messages that reminded me, in this life, I want Bella to know that even if I can't speak up, someone will speak for me. If she truly intends to harm me, she should feel fear and think twice, even if, in the worst-case scenario, she succeeds in the end. I will make sure her entire family lives in constant fear, unable to sleep at night. Bella was startled by the roar, her eyes red. I didn't bully her, she just didn't bring me food. Don't you have legs? Why should Cecilia bring you food? She's been bringing it for you for over 2 years. Have you ever said thank you? You're so damn spoiled. Exactly. Did you bully her or not? Do you think we can't see it? Do you really think your family selling milk makes you so great? You don't treat others like people. The suppressed, accumulated, and deeply felt resentment poured out toward Bella, leaving her frozen in shock. Perhaps, having been spoiled since childhood, she would never understand that while people may bow to money and power temporarily, they will not tolerate endless humiliation. Bella ended up running out of the classroom in tears. I remained calm throughout the whole incident, yet my classmates still came over one by one to comfort me. It's okay, I said. I'll be rid of her soon, after school in the evening. I went over to help Bella pack her bag. It was a habit I'd kept all through high school. Her eyes were swollen like eggs, and she still glared at me fiercely. So you finally admit you were wrong. I tidied up her scattered books, notebooks, and pens, putting some into the desk drawer and the ones she needed for the evening into her school bag. The driver will be here to pick you up soon. Could you give me a ride too? I whispered. Bella suddenly laughed. Now you need something from me. And you're scared, Cecilia. See what kind of person you really are. Of course, in the end, the driver didn't give me a ride. On the way home walking, a long leg suddenly stretched out diagonally in front of me. I was lost in thought and almost tripped. Sorry. Leo grabbed my arm and apologized with a smile. Then he gestured behind him with his chin. Top of the class. Want me to walk you home? Bicycle, youth, the cool night breeze. I couldn't help but squint my eyes and take a deep breath. All right. When I got home, I told my mom that I needed to work on test papers and not to disturb me. Sitting at the desk, I pulled out my phone. I opened a software, and it showed that the recording was ongoing. I clicked on it, and the voices of Bella and Aunt Lisa speaking came through clearly. At noon, I left the cafeteria before Sarah and the others, but returned to the classroom after them. In between, I ran to buy a voice recorder. It can be remotely controlled and monitored. It's very high-tech and expensive, costing me years of my pocket money, but it was worth it. While helping Bella organize her school bag, I slipped it into a hidden compartment she wouldn't notice. I'd been wondering before, what was the real reason behind those malicious schemes in my previous life, forcing me to switch schools by running over my dad. It's either because my dad discovered their illegal activities, Or they were just coveting my achievements. What exactly could have driven them to brutally murder people they knew, people who were alive and well right beside them, and these people, even in their dying moments, were still thanking them for years of care, thanking them for not pursuing charges for drunk driving, calling them good people. Bella was provoked by me today and then scared by her classmates. She's definitely going to cry to Aunt Lisa. I need to know more. Why did Uncle Wilson say we can't change the application again? I already told my classmates I got into Harvard. Mom, you can't let me lose face. Bella's voice. Around the time of the mock exams, Bella had indeed told her classmates that she would get into Harvard someday. I thought she was planning a last-minute push, although it seemed irrational. I didn't dwell on it, had no idea that such a disgusting scheme was hidden behind it all. Aunt Lisa sighed. Uncle Wilson said it's too risky, even though things aren't strictly monitored here. His relative at the Education Bureau wouldn't dare to do it. This is too risky, that's too risky. It's just the college entrance exam. Uncle Wilson always brags about how capable he is and how many people he knows, yet he can't even handle such a small matter. I closed my eyes, speechless. She really was ignorant and arrogant. Honey, if it really doesn't work out, let's go abroad. I'll also try to persuade your dad. Although the prestige isn't as good as Harvard, as long as we pay. It'll be fine. No, I want Harvard. Why can Cecilia go? But I can't. Isn't Dad also always angry that I'm not as good as that driver's daughter? It's actually best to let Cecilia take the initiative to switch with you. When the time comes, we can ask Uncle Wilson to help with the school transfer documents. So there's no need to worry about being reported. Cecilia isn't foolish. Why would she take the initiative to switch? Should we pay her $2 million? I don't want to give her a single cent. Aunt Lisa chuckled lightly. Darling, anything that can be solved with money isn't a problem. What's the big deal if we give her a few million? The real concern is if she refuses the money. If that happens, after waiting a few minutes. There was no follow-up. Bella also grew impatient. So what if that happens? If that's the case, leave it to Mom and Dad. Sweetheart, don't worry about it. By the way, what if my classmates report it? They're always so nosy. It's so annoying. I think one of them even has a relative who's a police officer. Then I'll need to have a good discussion with your dad and Uncle Wilson. I couldn't bear to listen any longer, so I pressed the mute button. How could Bella and her mother talk about stealing someone else's college entrance exam results in such a light-hearted tone, as if they were discussing how to cook a dish, but what they were devouring bite by bite was someone else's life? After being comforted by Aunt Lisa, Bella's mood clearly improved a lot. I even fantasized about switching schools with her. She said she would deliberately perform poorly on exams and apply to the worst vocational college, ensuring I'd have no chance to rise once I got in. She was also worried I might retake the exams, fearing her fraudulent actions would be exposed and ruin her future. She discussed with Aunt Lisa, determined to cut off all my hopes. In short, she wanted me to live under a name that wasn't mine, rotting in the mud. Listening to their laughter through the phone, I felt as if I'd fallen into an ice cellar, trembling uncontrollably. Because of these things, even though they are just fantasies now. In my previous life, they truly, brutally happened to me. At that time, I had so many assumptions. I thought that with Bella's ability, her poor exam performance was due to an off day, and that she applied to that school because she made a mistake. I thought that although Aunt Lisa had some conditions, it was out of necessity, and that her telling me not to repeat a year and to hide my identity was also because she was worried I'd get caught. Now it seems, it wasn't that I was too naive, but that they were far more malicious than I imagined. I unclenched my fists, my palms almost bleeding from where I'd dug my nails in. I saved the recording, backed it up, and uploaded it to an online cloud storage, although cloud storage hadn't been around for many years at that point, and its reliability was questionable. I had to prepare for the worst-case scenario just in case. Knock knock. The door was tapped. Cecilia, have you finished your test papers? There's something important I need to talk to you about. Dad's back. It seems he already knows something. Fortunately, I've been prepared for a while and have something important to give him. Dad doesn't look too well. As soon as I entered my bedroom, I looked around first. Cecilia, you don't have any brown group milk here, do you? I shook my head. That's good. I found out today that all the fresh milk at home had expired, so I quickly had your mom throw it away. Don't drink it anymore from now on, okay? My heart sank. Sure enough, he knew. Last night, I tested my dad, and seeing his hesitant expression, I guessed he might have just discovered some clues. Now it seems he has found the answer. For the first time, I wished my dad could be a bit more oblivious. I pulled out my identical report card and handed it to him. Dad, am I smart? Top of the class again. Of course Cecilia is smart, he had always been so proud of me. I stared steadily into his eyes. Then does your smart daughter, who already knows about the additives in the milk, get to discuss this with you? Dad's face instantly turned pale. How did you know? Of course, I couldn't say it was because I was reborn, that would be too shocking. I casually brushed it off. I guessed, the ingredients in milk are supposed to be as simple as possible. If there's a problem, it must be because something that shouldn't be there was added. Dad, you've never been this nervous before. Is the situation really serious? He sighed and hesitated for a long time. Finally, he pulled out a stool from the side and sat down. Cecilia, Dad's mind is in chaos. I never expected the company I've watched grow step by step to encounter something like this. My father worked for nearly 10 years at Brown Group Dairy under boss Bruce. Although he was just a driver, he was genuinely proud of the company. It started as a small local company and even faced tough times when they couldn't collect enough milk. It only began gaining national recognition in the past couple of years. Driven by government support, it seized the opportunity to go public, becoming the only listed company in our small town. You could say that Dad has grown alongside this company step by step, which is why I can't easily persuade him to leave. Dad said he accidentally discovered that the company's flagship pure milk product contains illegal additives. Although the detected protein content is high, it is actually harmful to the human body. Dad, what are you going to do? I definitely have to tell boss Bruce. He's always busy with major financing and expansion matters. If the employees below are doing this, it'll be too late by the time he finds out. Sure enough, my first thought was that boss Bruce was innocent. How do you plan to tell boss Bruce? Of course, I need to present him with evidence. Otherwise, with just empty words, boss Bruce might think I'm slandering our colleagues in the production department. It seems that in my previous life, my father had shown boss Bruce the evidence. Fearing he might be kept in the dark, boss Bruce naturally wouldn't thank Dad for his kind reminder. He would only be wary that he had been caught with something. Dad, everything you're saying is based on the premise that boss Bruce doesn't know. What if? I leaned in and said, word for word, what if he does know? Or even, what if he arranged it himself? Dad froze like a block of wood. He instinctively shook his head, stammering, no way, Bruce isn't that kind of person. We've worked together for over 10 years. He's always been a good guy. I sighed, taking out her phone. She played a recording. Bella, did you drink this carton of milk? Aunt Lisa's voice was shrill with tension. No, didn't you tell me not to drink our family's milk? Bella sounded confused. That's good. Remember, never drink our family's milk, especially pure milk. Aunt Lisa reminded me again. While helping Bella pack her school bag, I deliberately placed an empty carton of Brown Group pure milk on top of all her books. Very noticeable. Aunt Lisa's reaction had already explained everything. Dad widened his eyes in disbelief, after a long pause. He tugged at the corner of his lips, forcing a bitter smile. Their parents too, how could they do something like this? He raised his eyes to gaze at the boundless moonlight outside the window. Since last year, Brown Group had already negotiated with elementary schools in rural counties to include pure milk in their nutrition programs. They even told customers that Brown Group milk contains nothing but raw milk, safe enough for newborns to drink. Cecilia, do you know how many children that was? Tens of thousands. Dad, what are you going to do? I asked this question again. Dad turned his face, his eyes losing their sparkle. Cecilia, what do you want Dad to do? Yes, although Dad is kind-hearted and honest, he's not stupid. He knew that if it was boss Bruce who authorized these illegal activities, the nature of the matter would change. This means that if he wants to speak out about this matter, he's standing against boss Bruce, even against the entire Brown Group dairy industry. In my previous life, I kept myself isolated from worldly affairs and didn't pay attention to these matters. I didn't know that Brown Group had been operating at a loss for several consecutive years after going public. I only vaguely remember occasionally coming across some news reports. Initially posts exposing toxic milk, followed by reports of infants dying after consuming milk products. But soon, the news was suppressed. However, public outcry couldn't be silenced. Nor could those young lives that carried the happiness of entire families be easily ignored. The power of public opinion gradually grew. From what I recall, the Food Supervision Bureau eventually issued a notice announcing an investigation into Brown Group's dairy operations. It's a pity that by then, too many people and families had already paid the price. If I said I hope you wouldn't get involved, And that our family could hide far away and live our own lives peacefully. Would that be okay? I asked. Dad let out a deep sigh. Of course, as the head of the family, I shouldn't have let my wife and children live in fear. You're so busy with your college entrance exams, yet I've made you worry. Even, he glanced at my phone, the screen paused on that app controlling the recording pen, even dragged you into these adult matters. I haven't lived up to what a father should do, although the decision was made. Dad looked utterly dejected in a way that's hard to describe. We knew all too well that staying silent meant watching tens of thousands of children suffer. Perhaps we'd never find peace with our conscience for the rest of our lives. I clenched my lower lip tightly. When putting the stool back, Dad clearly staggered, as if he had suddenly aged several years. There was too much information tonight. Trusted old friends, proud career, principles of conduct, all completely overturned. His hand trembled slightly as he opened the door. Dad, we'll make them pay. I whispered to his back. Dad turned around blankly. What, Boss Bruce? We'll make them pay, for deceiving the company, for harming our clients. They will pay for the vicious harm they inflicted on our family. The light that had faded in Dad's eyes reignited. Good, I kept the rebirth a secret and didn't mention Bella's plan to switch schools with me. Instead, I gathered information from both my past and current lives and shared it with Dad. In the end, we decided to secretly collect evidence of Bruce's boss's illegal activities while ensuring the safety of our entire family, wait for the right moment to report their illegal activities. Being a listed company indeed brings many resources and conveniences, allowing them to suppress unfavorable press releases, but the other side of power is restraint. The higher you stand, the more eyes are watching you at all times. Falling down makes the impact heavier. After the third mock exam, it's time to start adjusting the study pace between tension and relaxation. Lucy, the art committee member, walked to my desk and spoke somewhat awkwardly. It's my birthday this weekend, and I'd like everyone to relax a bit. Cecilia, would you like to join us? I was a bit surprised. In my past life, no one ever invited me to birthday parties. They usually invited. I instinctively glanced in Bella's direction. Lately, she hasn't bullied me anymore. But occasionally she would silently watch me with a sinister smile. Although I knew what this meant, to others it just looked like there was something strange between us. Lucy clearly understood what I was worried about and lowered her voice. Don't worry, if you agree to come, I won't invite Bella. Honestly, I didn't really want her to come anyway. I hesitated without answering. Lucy added, you should come. Otherwise Leo won't be able to make it either. I turned to Leo in surprise. And sure enough, he was looking at me with a mischievous curl at the corner of his lips. What does my going or not have to do with him? Lucy scoffed. You don't know. His uncle is a cop, super strict. He said he'd only let me go if I brought the top student in our grade, or else he'd break my legs. That's pretty funny. I nodded and agreed. Bella soon found out that she wasn't invited, but I was invited to the birthday party. For her, it was nothing short of a humiliation. How could the daughter of a mere driver like me be more popular than her? You, going to someone's birthday party. What are you going to wear? Your school uniform, or one of my old discarded dresses? And what birthday gift are you planning to give? Don't tell me it's a ride-hailing coupon. Ha ha ha, if it were me from my past life, still clinging to some misguided pride back then, I might have felt ashamed hearing these words, but later, after going through times when debts and daily meals weighed heavily on me, I learned to let even the harshest taunts go in one ear and out the other. But Leo wasn't. He walked over to me, distancing himself from Bella. No need for you to worry about this. You weren't even invited, so why all the fuss? Bella was truly about to explode with anger. Lucy's birthday party is scheduled for the evening. In the afternoon, Leo asked me out, under the guise of needing to ask me questions. He took me shopping for clothes on his bike. A teenager's little schemes are actually quite easy to see through. I even found it childish the moment I received his message, but when I tried on dress after dress, with him staring at me with sparkling eyes, listening to him rack his brains to come up with nonsensical idioms to praise me, I still couldn't help my racing heart. The more one struggles in filthy mud, the more one is moved by purity and innocence, until I put on a white dress. And Leo's eyes visibly widened, then he shook his head again. No, really not. I think this one looks nice. Leo looked frustrated. That's exactly why not. You're already top of the class. If you're also seen as this pretty, I'll definitely become even more invisible. I pretended to hit him, grabbing the back of his neck and pulling him down. Don't slander me. Both my eyes are 5-0 vision. How could I not see you? Leo's face turned red all the way to the tips of his ears. his Adam's apple bobbing rapidly, walking stiffly to the front desk to pay the bill. To thank Leo, I treated him to bubble tea. It was his request, saying the lemonade here was the best in the world, so I bought him 3 cups. We sat by the roadside under the shade of a tree. "Are you afraid your uncle will find out you went to Lucy's birthday party because he'll be there too?" "Yeah. Turning 18 is a coming-of-age ceremony. Lucy's grandfather wants to make it a big event. The old man worked in the legal system before retiring, and my uncle was his apprentice. He'll definitely be there." "Is your uncle really that scary? You look so funny when you're scared." "Don't even get me started. He's such an old fuddy-duddy, so stubborn and set in his ways. If I hadn't told him the top student in our grade was going too, he definitely would have told my mom to chain me up at home." I took a sip of my lemonade, tart and tangy, and quietly asked, "So, does your uncle have kids?" Leo stretched his long legs wide open and yawned lazily. "Yeah, my aunt just gave birth to a chubby baby boy and is still on maternity leave." I nodded silently, already forming a plan in my mind, and said nothing more. The afternoon sun burned fiercely overhead. I tilted my face upward, wishing its piercing light could penetrate deeper, dispelling all the shadows within my heart. At the birthday party, I gave Lucy a collection of exam key points that I had compiled myself. There aren't many days left until the college entrance exam, and doing practice problems isn't very useful anymore. What's more important now is to organize and refine your knowledge points. Lucy unwrapped many gifts in one night: food, clothes, and toys. I just wrapped that exercise book of mine haphazardly in colored paper, making it look quite shabby. But when she flipped through it page by page, she let out a startled scream. "Grandpa, I think I'm definitely going to make it into the top 5. Everyone else also gathered around, pulling at me and asking, "Cecilia, my birthday is next month. Can you give me my present early?" "Oh no, my birthday has already passed. Can we move next year's birthday to this year?" At the end of the birthday party, a group of people ended up gathered together discussing exam points. The adults watching couldn't help but laugh and cry at the same time. By the time I got home, it was already quite late. Unexpectedly, Dad was sitting in the living room waiting for me, with a somewhat serious expression. "Cecilia, Boss Bruce said he's giving me time off starting tomorrow. Do you think he might have discovered something?" I was a bit tipsy from drinking some fruit wine, but Dad's words instantly sobered me up. In my previous life, after the college entrance exam, Boss Bruce also gave my dad some time off, ostensibly to let him accompany me and have fun. But one early morning, he called my dad and asked him to drive to pick someone up on short notice. That was the day. The admission letter, car accident, surgery fees, and school swap, one after another. Our family's fate was forever changed. Looking back now, that abrupt vacation was meant to keep Dad away from company affairs, making it easier for Boss Bruce to arrange a drunk driving accident. I splashed cold water on my face, clearing my mind completely. Sitting across from Dad, I pondered the differences between this life and the previous one. "Dad, is there any chance you could have been discovered while gathering the information?" Dad pondered. "It shouldn't be. We made it very clear. We only needed to gather evidence and draw the attention of the relevant authorities, so I never touched anything core." His clenched hands suddenly tightened. "Could it be Bob?" Bob is the head of the security team at Brown Group and has known Dad for many years. Yesterday someone came to the company entrance to protest. His 6-month-old baby developed kidney stones from drinking Brown Group milk. While gathering materials, I privately contacted him. When that person saw me at the entrance, he gave a slight nod, which Bob might have noticed. I continued his train of thought. Bob spotted this minor anomaly, though he didn't understand the reason behind it. After much deliberation, he still reported it to Boss Bruce, scoring himself a major achievement. Dad rubbed his hair anxiously. "Bob probably wouldn't. There are no shoulds, nor any supposed tos. Having lived through a past life, I long ago stopped placing expectations on human nature, but we still need to confirm whether Boss Bruce already knows. Only by grasping the enemy's movements can we formulate the next step of our strategy." We woke Mom up. She was initially mumbling complaints, but seeing both me and Dad looking increasingly serious, she also straightened up. "Mom, ask Bob's wife to go shopping with you tomorrow." Mom glanced at the time. "It's almost midnight. Isn't it weird to arrange shopping now?" "That's exactly the point. It needs to be weird." Sure enough, Bob's wife initially agreed in a daze. Within minutes, she called back saying she suddenly remembered having something to do tomorrow. Apparently, Bob's wife found it strange and mentioned it to him, only to be stopped by Bob. It's clear now, whether out of guilt or fear, Bob wants to draw a clear line with my family. I coaxed Mom back to sleep, then exchanged a glance with Dad. We had to prepare for the worst, the calm before the storm of college entrance exams. Aunt Lisa even asked Bella about my recent condition, reminding her not to let anything affect my exams. I felt like laughing. It's just like a kind butcher who plays music for a cow before slaughter because they're afraid the beef won't taste good. Before the exam, I gave Leo a neatly folded small note. If one day you find you can't find me anywhere, then open this. He blinked his eyes. Does this mean, no matter what, I can always find you? This deduction makes perfect sense logically. Excitedly, he kissed the little note over and over, then tucked it into his pants pocket and patted it. This is my lucky charm. You'd better take that out. It counts as bringing unauthorized materials into the exam hall. Oh, after the college entrance exam ended, I didn't feel the slightest bit of relief. Instead, I felt even more tense. Boss Bruce should be making his move soon. Nervous, worried, terrified. Despite being prepared, I still worried about unexpected incidents. And any mishap could mean the nightmare from my previous life would repeat itself. On the day the results were released, early in the morning, a phone call came, asking Dad to pick someone up at short notice. They moved up their plans, not even waiting for the notice. It seems that in this lifetime, Boss Bruce believes Dad secretly investigated him and has completely placed him on the opposing side. Boss Bruce is truly desperate. On the phone, Boss Bruce's tone was as gentle as ever, apologizing for disturbing our father-daughter vacation and even warmly wishing me high scores. Truly, even in this life, despite already knowing his plan, I still couldn't imagine that such seemingly pleasant words concealed such malicious intentions. I didn't even check my scores. I just sat on the sofa. Wait for it. My mom thought I was worried about my grades, and she repeatedly stroked my back to comfort me, saying, "Don't be nervous." The phone rang, startling me and making me drop the cup in my hand. I picked it up, and there was a cacophony of voices. "Are you David's family? Drunk driving accident. Come to the hospital quickly." Hospital, a very familiar scene. The lights in the operating room came on, nurses scurried about, and one critical illness notice after another was signed. When my mom heard that the initial surgery would cost $1 million, her legs instantly went weak, and she almost knelt down. I pulled her up and helped her sit in a nearby chair. Then I walked over to Aunt Lisa, who had a cold expression on her face. "Your father was driving drunk, and he even got Bruce seriously injured." She glared at me and said, "How did Mom and I respond to this sentence in our previous life?" "I'm sorry, ma'am, he's usually very reliable, and I don't know why he drove drunk this time, but lives are at stake. Could you please lend us the money to get the surgery done first?" "But now, I just feel exhausted inside." "Aunt Lisa, you said, which one of these surgeries is Uncle Bruce's?" She was stunned. "What do you mean? You're not willing to take responsibility, are you?" I shook my head, too lazy to dwell on it. "The surgery fees are needed so urgently, and you know, we can't afford it at all, so we can only borrow money from you. I know what you and Bella want. Let's find a place to talk." The cafe next to the hospital, a quiet booth. I slowly stirred my latte, while Aunt Lisa across from me seemed quite uneasy. It has always been this way. The more flustered I become, the more calmly they watch the show, while the calmer I remain, the more turbulent their emotions grow. "Cecilia, Auntie understands. This happened so suddenly. You're just a child. You must be frightened." She placed her hand on mine, delicate, soft, and cold, like a slithering, creeping serpent. I withdrew my hand, ignoring her hypocritical comfort. A light chuckle. "Aunt Lisa, the plan is going smoothly, isn't it?" She froze for a moment, the concern on her face gradually fading away. "What do you know?" Putting down my coffee cup, I pursed my lips. "I know everything. All of this, to be honest, was a culmination of years of accumulated dissatisfaction. You and Uncle Bruce are doing great in every way, making good money and successful in your careers. But the only thing that sticks in your throat is Bella's poor grades, not even as good as the driver's daughter. It really makes you lose face. So, you came up with a brilliant idea. Why not just take my grades and change my school? The college entrance exam is serious, but money and connections have made you feel like you can do anything. You found people in the education bureau and promised to help you swap grades or tamper with materials. You arrogantly think that as long as you have money, what can't you buy? Of course, you also had your worries. What if I didn't sell, then force it? This idea was originally just and you didn't think it was worth killing and burning for, until Uncle Bruce realized that my dad had discovered his illegal dealings at Brown Group. Because the company was continuously losing money, he actually added harmful additives to pure milk to reduce the cost that raw milk should have had. Not only that, knowing full well the immense toxic effects these additives would have on children, he still went madly ahead to develop markets targeting elementary school kids and infants, all to increase profits. Why was he so bold? It still comes down to arrogance. He knew that the county and township markets were truly bottom tier, the people here were poor and uneducated, and the mere title of a listed company was enough to scare them from seeking justice, just like your judgment of my entire family, poor, yet simple and honest, faking a car accident, leaving my father half dead. And then Uncle Bruce pretending to be severely injured. All the blame can be pushed onto my dad. In this way, my mom and I, filled with shame and anxiety, can only beg for forgiveness, only plead for loans. So what can we offer in exchange? Only a Harvard acceptance letter would catch your family's eye. What a brilliant plan, eliminating my father as a potential threat, and getting Bella into Harvard University. Ultimately, the responsibility for the car accident lies with my father, while the responsibility for the identity swap and school transfer falls on me. Your whole family is still wonderful people, and we are eternally grateful. Ding! I tapped the rim of the cup with my spoon and looked up. Aunt Lisa, am I right? What are you talking about? I don't understand. Aunt Lisa picked up her coffee cup. Her hands were trembling, spilling liquid that stained her expensive suit. If you really don't understand, then this must all be Bella's doing, because she's the one who told me about this plan. After my dad left following Uncle Bruce's phone call, I received another call. Guess who it was from? Can you imagine how happy Bella was? She knew the plan had succeeded, as thrilled as if she'd been admitted to Harvard, sharing with me her so-called academic journey. I still laughed, but my voice trembled with excitement. Smack! Aunt Lisa slammed the cup on the table, spilling coffee all over it. Don't slander our Bella, she knows nothing. Additives, fabricated car accidents, we never told her any of this. I finally let out a long sigh of relief. Oh, admitted it. Aunt Lisa quickly realized too, her face turning as pale as paper. Veins bulged on her forehead as she grabbed a nearby dinner knife and lunged at me. Cecilia, what exactly are you trying to do? What do you mean by saying all this? I just put my hand up to block it, and didn't move again, letting the blood gush from the wound, to prevent her from getting too agitated. I even slowly spread my hands, as if surrendering. I'm saying all this just to beg you. My father is still lying in the operating room, waiting for emergency funds. I can't do anything else but beg you. Please lend us the money, please let us go. Aunt Lisa let out a low chuckle, uncontrollable, almost morbid. You really are clever, indeed. There's nothing you can do now because only my money can save your father. Lending you the money is possible, but Harvard is mine too. We've planned for so long, it can't all come to nothing in the end. Kid, you should know, even if your dad survives this car accident, there's no guarantee there won't be a next time. She tossed the dinner knife aside flippantly and shook her head. It seems intelligence really isn't much use. When it comes down to it, money is what saves lives. But do you really think I'd believe your long-winded speech was just to beg me? She stood up and walked over to me, snatched my backpack away, unzipped all the compartments, turned it upside down, and shook it vigorously. Everything inside the backpack spilled out instantly. She tapped and scuffed with her toes, picking through until she spotted something, her eyes lighting up. A voice recorder. Kid, looks like this was your backup plan. Don't look so upset. If you want to cry, go ahead. Consider this Auntie's lesson. Kids' cleverness will always just be petty cleverness. Auntie Lisa tossed the voice recorder into my coffee cup and gave it a stir. Pick up, toss out the window, watch helplessly as a car runs over it, smooth out my hair and suit, lift my chin, and stride elegantly out of the stall. I crouched down, picking up the scattered items from my backpack one by one, waiting calmly. Fierce shouts could be heard from outside. Don't move. Stepping out of the cubicle, outside were heavily armed police officers. Aunt Lisa has already been taken into custody. Her once meticulously styled hair now hung in disheveled strands. On what grounds are you arresting me? What crime have I committed? You have no evidence. I shook the black recording device in my hand. It was previously installed under the desk. Aunt Lisa, haven't you figured it out yet? You genius. The police didn't just appear out of thin air. They've been monitoring this place all along. They heard every word of your confession just now. As for the voice recorder you threw away, I didn't even turn it on. She finally stopped struggling and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Beyond redemption, destroyed by greed and arrogance, Leo rushed over and grabbed me in a tight embrace. with such force it felt like he was trying to press me into his bones. Ahem, I reminded him, sorry. Did I hurt you? Leo quickly pulled away in a fluster. I tilted my chin toward the side. Two unfriendly faces were staring straight at us, my dad, and his uncle. His uncle grumbled angrily, you little brat, if it weren't for your decent exam results, I'd have broken your legs. Dad didn't even have the energy to scold me. Just moments ago, he had overheard the entire confrontation between me and Aunt Lisa outside. He was still shaken by what he'd heard, in the morning. As soon as he arrived at the location specified by Boss Bruce, he was taken under police protection. The police had arranged the bloody drunk driving accident scene that Boss Bruce required. A group of people hid themselves and watched as he pretended to be injured and squeezed himself into the less severely damaged back seat. Of course, Boss Bruce had people arranged at the hospital, but they had already been taken care of by the police. The rest was entirely a stage for Boss Bruce and Aunt Lisa to perform. Cecilia, it's Dad's fault for not protecting you well, leaving you to face so many things alone. Dad's eyes were red, his voice trembling. Just like before, I held his big hand and acted coquettishly. Dad, being protected by you and Mom, as well as being able to protect you both, are things that make me feel happy and grateful. In my previous life, the loneliness and helplessness of losing everything still startle me awake from dreams from time to time. Dad and I comforted each other. Leo helped tend to my wounds. Fortunately, the knife didn't cut too deep. Many times, the boss watched his clumsy bandaging gestures, hesitating to speak. In the end, he let it go. Ugly as it is, what can you do? Just before taking Aunt Lisa away, there was suddenly a commotion outside. A crowd of reporters armed with cameras and microphones arrived. Leo's uncle looked at me, and I looked at him. This part wasn't arranged by us. Originally thought it was the Brown family's matter that attracted reporters. Not at all. It was actually because I became the city's top scorer. In my previous life, this college entrance exam marked the boundary between light and darkness in my life. I would often take out these exam questions and solve them repeatedly. Who would have thought that this time, preoccupied with wondering when Boss Bruce would make his move, I accidentally scored a bit too high without realizing it. Sigh, I should have intentionally gotten a few questions wrong. However, having the halo effect of being a top scholar does come with one advantage. The reporters who initially just wanted to interview me about my academic journey ended up stumbling upon a major scandal. As a result, the intricate web of connections behind Boss Bruce, which even Leo's uncle had worried would be impossible to shake, was suddenly exposed to public scrutiny. As for the recordings I had obtained earlier, since they were made privately, they couldn't be used as legal evidence, but as material for posting. It's sufficient, no need for embellishment. Just the raw truth is enough to outrage netizens. The products from the listed company they trusted actually had such serious quality issues. For profit, they could even ruthlessly target students and children. Public resentment boiled over in an instant. The seemingly unshakable Brown Group dairy, which appeared to have strong backing, collapsed overnight, revealing devastation everywhere. Aunt Lisa was arrested and awaits sentencing. Boss Bruce caught wind of the situation first and fled. In the Brown Group Dairy Rights Protection Group, parents who had lost their children or were watching their children being consumed by illness received a message from an anonymous user. It contained several very detailed addresses, along with a gentle reminder: obey the law and avoid any extreme actions. 3 days later, the news of Boss Bruce's death became the headline in all our local newspapers, just as earth-shattering as when Brown Group successfully went public. Dad, after all, has been Bruce's boss's diligent driver for 10 years. Bella came to plead with me, hoping Aunt Lisa could get a lighter sentence, yet still spoke in that haughty tone. I looked at the person before me, who remained arrogant even in their downfall, and smiled. Bella, you must have been terrified when you tried to harm me, weren't you? So worried that I might rise again and come for revenge. But I feel nothing toward you. Do you know why? With a smile, I tore the check she handed me into pieces and threw them in her face. Because you're just a pile of worthless mud, never to rise again. Oh, right. Before leaving, I kindly reminded him, with your assets frozen, checks are useless. You'd better find a way to get a job. My judgment about Bella was completely accurate. 2 years later, someone posted in the high school group chat that she had jumped to her death. Before jumping off the building, they unfurled a banner, declaring that their entire family had done nothing wrong. Some also claimed she didn't commit suicide but was pushed by a parent who had lost their child. In the end, no one cared. Only Aunt Lisa, upon hearing the tragic news in prison, went mad. Someone in the group chat said, "How tragic." Sarah replied, What's tragic about it? They've ruined so many families and even tried to harm Cecilia. They got what they deserved. I didn't say anything. After just glancing at the group chat, I turned off the screen. I'm preparing materials for studying abroad, but all that came later. After the college entrance exam results were released, our senior year class 1 had a meal together. Of course, Bella wasn't there. In this lifetime, Leo did exceptionally well and got into a top-tier university. I was really happy for him. That day, I took out the white dress he bought me, put it on, and applied light makeup. Everyone was both excited and heartbroken when they saw me, offering congratulations one after another. Only Leo kept his distance from me, and we didn't speak the entire time. After dinner, the classmates left one by one. Perhaps on this day, many people bid farewell, never to meet again in their lifetime. I called out to Leo from behind, "Did you open and read that little note?" He looked slightly uneasy. "No, after all, it's not yet the time when I won't see you anymore." I nodded slightly with a faint smile. The note contained a URL, a username, and password, where Dad and I stored all the evidence we'd gathered. If I ultimately failed to save our family, I know you're the only one in this world who would speak the truth for me. After a brief moment of stunned silence, Leo's eyes reddened. The usually carefree person wore an uncharacteristically serious expression. "Top of the class, thank you for believing in me. Actually, I knew all along. You used me to provoke Bella, contacted my uncle through me to protect yourselves against the Browns. I'm happy I could help. Next time, just tell me directly." The boy smiled bitterly yet sincerely. With a wave of his fair arm, he turned away gracefully, seemingly stirring up the summer breeze. "Leo, come find me at Harvard when school starts," I shouted at his retreating figure. The boy paused mid-step, turning around, blushing from face to ear tips. "All right, Cecilia." Postscript: with the nation's development and technological advancement, significant improvements have been made in issues ranging from college entrance exam impersonation to food safety. The ability to change our destiny through hard work is truly a beautiful thing, worthy of our utmost efforts. At the same time, if you find your rights violated, never give up. Stand up bravely and resist, for fate will surely favor those who are passionate and courageous. After hearing the story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.